The last chance qualifier is, well, the last chance for the best teams from each region to make it to champions. We already have 12 teams making it to champions that have qualified through the Valorant circuit points. There are 4 slots still available, and which means that 4 teams can make it from each of their respective major region. Now there's a last chance qualifier going on in each of those 4 regions, but I'm mainly going to focus on North America because, well, that's about all I know. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Dome. My name is Dominic, and today I'm going to give you a rundown of who is going to the LCQ, how these teams have performed, and how these teams have developed over the past few months, since we haven't really seen them play too much, and how I think the rankings will shake down and who is going to champions. 8 of North America's best teams are going to be playing against each other to see who will get that final slot. Now, going in, I probably would have guessed I knew who the outcome was going to be. Now, NA was expected to win Berlin. We had Sentinels, we had Envy, we had 100 Thieves, all looking very strong going in. But in the end, they didn't win, which means that final champion slot from the victor of Berlin went to another region. So therefore, we only have 2 North American representatives and 1/3 one coming from the LCQ. Now we already have Sentinels and Envy going, but I also expected 100 Thieves to make it. That would have made for a much more interesting LCQ because that also means that TSM get bumped into the running. However, with Gambit taking it and that 4th slot going to EMEA, NA has a tough time. I'm going to go into each team individually and kind of tell you what's going on with them. Starting off with 100 Thieves. After an absolutely stellar Berlin performance, they fell just short of not making it to champions. If Envy had won their match against Gambit, they would have been seeded in. They had just under enough points to make it. Just after Berlin, unfortunately, Steele decided to bench himself, claiming he was very stressed from all performances. He said he'll be back in 2022 for the remainder of the season. He'll be benched, which means that Boy, their young prospect, is stepping up to the plate. So I don't know if we'll see the same caliber of play as we did with 100 Thieves at Berlin, but I still think they are very, very poised to win. They're still an incredibly strong roster with some of the best players in the world. Nitro now IGLing like he did back in CSGO. I think this is going to make for an amazing team, but will they be as strong as they were in Berlin? They struggled against some of North America's other top teams like XSET, who is also in that running for the LCQ. So I guess we're going to have to see. Speaking of XSET, XSET also looks incredibly strong as a team. XSET, I think, is in that same echelon as 100 Thieves, Envy, and Sentinels. They are consistently NA's strongest. They just fell short of making it to champions, placing 4th, but also beating Sentinels at some point on their journey there. They have proven that they can be that pinnacle team, but they just fell short. Can they prove themselves differently going into the LCQ? They have to beat a weaker 100 Thieves, who knocked them out. It was 100 Thieves who knocked them out of that Berlin qualifying spot, so will they be able to enact revenge? XSET's roster has actually stayed the same. They have a pretty solid roster. Zekin looking very good. Aaron, the whole team looks very strong. Next up, we have Cloud9 Blue. Now, I've caught a lot of strays from me claiming that Cloud9 Blue is a very strong Valorant team because a lot of people don't agree with that. But I think they have proven themselves in their off season that they are good. After picking up Vanity from V1, an incredibly strong player in the IGL, they picked up Vanity on the off season and have been entering tier 2 tournaments and absolutely wiping the floor with everyone. Their lineup looks so incredibly strong. I think Poise, he's a very strong duelist on his own right, but was struggling in that sort of team play scenario. Having him replaced with having Zeppa take the step up to duelist, I think it's going to be a super interesting time to see whether they can take that spot. I think these 3 teams are the most likely to win the whole thing. They all have experience beating that top echelon of players and have done it semi-consistently. The next sort of tier of players that we have are the dark horses that could take some sets and honestly might be able to take the spot if they can play hot enough. Let's start off with Rise. Rise, a fairly new organization to Valorant. They picked up some of the, let's call them demons of the Valorant scene. Shanks, Calypso, Poised, as well as some other not too bad people like Superman and Derek. Rise had an incredibly stellar performance in the Challengers 3, beating teams like Cloud9 Blue, Gen.G, TSM. They beat a lot of the top tier teams and proved that they can upset above their seed. They looked incredibly strong in these games, and I think if they can do that in this tournament, they could make some damage. Their team has remained, I think, exactly the same as they did previously, which is good because this roster can make some upsets. We'll see how they do. Next up, we have FaZe Clan. They've also stayed the same, but they've also been able to make those huge upsets before. We saw in Masters 1, they were on an absolute rampage, placing second, only losing to Sentinels. Now, they lost a lot of their spark in Stage 2, but it started to come back in Stage 3, and they made some big plays. They made it all the way to the championship playoffs, and again, I think they can do well if they can stay on that hot streak that they're known for. Then we have LG Luminosity Gaming. They've also looked very strong since they had to replace a lot of their players going into Stage 3. They dropped Stellar and Thief, but also Moose injured his wrist, so he couldn't play for the duration. So they picked up Tig, Ban. With your boy Dre, Aproto, and Moose back, all three together, they are so incredibly strong, and I think Tig and Dazzle can do some work on their own. Do I think they're as strong as XSET, 100 Thieves, Cloud9 Blue? I don't think so, but I think they can make some upsets and kind of see how far they can take it. They might actually be able to take it, but it's going to be. Finally, the last two teams are V1 and Gen.G. V1, forming at the beginning of Stage 2, made it all the way to Reykjavik, Iceland. Now, they did an incredible job there, but after some patch notes and the way the game sort of moved away from utility-based combat, or people started to adapt to their playstyle, I think they're all incredibly strong players, but their playstyle has kind of fallen out of meta. However, they are now back. They've picked up Odorous as Vanity has left for Cloud9, and with their clutch team, I think they can actually do some work. They have proven they can beat those teams before, but they're going to have to adapt to this new meta. Can they do it? We'll see. And finally, the hometown hero, Gen.G. Now, if you didn't know, I'm a huge Gen.G fan. A lot of people think I'm a TSN fan. Believe it or not, they're alright. But Gen.G, I was a big fan of Gen.G when they first started off because it was a team of all French Canadians. Now, unfortunately, they have slowly all moved away from the team. Player 1 and Effie's going to V1, for Player 1 retired. Quinn going to Ghost Gaming, and Mikael dropped just after their loss at Stage 3. However, the new Gen.G is looking still incredibly strong. Nature proved that he is still one of the best players around, not only a Cypher player, but an IGL that can frag out. Did incredibly strong in Stage 3. GMD moving up to that duelist support role, he was doing very well, as well as Kusta really finding his footing in Valorant. We'll have to see how Temperature does. Temperature is their new player coming from EG, played quite strong there, but we'll see how he does on the main stage. I think their performance will be entirely based on how Sean does. Sean has proven himself to be one of the strongest initiators in the world on the same level as Tens and as Asuna, but struggles a lot with consistency. He can go one game from carrying everyone to the next game at bottom fragging. GMD, who's probably their second best fragger, does incredibly well, and at his worst, is in the middle of the pack. But on a good day, he is top fragging, very, very strong, with an absolute strength of a win. We saw them sort of reinvent their playstyle in Stage 3, but it felt like by the end, in some of the later matches, they were running out of strats. So hopefully they took this time to give a bigger depth to their playbook and can do a better job. I'm personally really hoping to see how Gen.G will do, and maybe they can take some names and hopefully take the tournament, maybe? We'll see. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the 4 initial matches and then show you my pick'ems, I guess. First off, we have 100 Thieves versus Gen.G. That's going to be a tough one for Gen.G. 100 Thieves, maybe they'll be shaken up, having Boy on the roster as a fresh new face, and Gen.G can take advantage of that, but I think it's going to be 2-0 100 Thieves. Then we have XSET Luminosity. I think XSET is going to take that one. Luminosity is a strong team, very much like an A-tier team, but they're going up against the S-tier team of North America in XSET. They've played so incredibly strong. BCJ, their whole squad is just so strong, each on their own right. And as a team, they work very well together. Then we have FaZe Clan versus Rise. I think this one's going to be a big matchup for the remainder of the tournament because both FaZe and Rise have this very, very strong X factor to them. This will be the first clue as to how they will perform. Both these teams work off momentum, which means whoever is winning is likely going to go on a rampage, as long as they win strongly and cleanly. I think this one is a toss-up. Version 1 has a bone to pick with Cloud9 Blue. Version 1 losing their IGL Vanity to Cloud9. It's going to be a super intense matchup. I really hope that V1 wins it, but in the end, I think that Cloud9 is going to take it. The issue with North America is that the Sentinels are such a dominant force in NA that it takes the spotlight away from a lot of these other teams. But it doesn't mean that they're not as strong. Even the A caliber of teams can take sets off of the S tier. Gen.G has performed many times very well against these teams, but it's just not consistent. I think consistency is key. If any one of these teams can perform consistently over this tournament, then they can take the last spot for champions. I hope you go and watch it. The NA LCQ will start on the 12th and last until the 17th. It's going to be a very good tournament, a lot of very dense matchups, and I think it's going to go all the way down to the wire. There's no very clear winner going in. And thank you for watching this video. It means a lot to me. And hey, if you want to watch more videos like this, subscribe. It's free, it's easy. Not a lot of you are subscribed to me. You get a video in your inbox every once in a while. That's not too bad. You can also follow me on Twitter, where I'll post more updates on this and give you my thoughts and opinions on the matchups going on, as well as join my Discord, where there's quite a few people in there talking about esports. More and more of you are joining. It means a lot to me. We can talk about the most recent Valorant news and the most recent Valorant matches. If you want to talk more about the NA LCQ, join in there. Anyways, thank you again for watching. It means a lot. Peace.